Hi there, I'm Sarah Maud, and if you are new to this channel, then hello and welcome. And if you are returning or you're a subscriber, then it's great to have you back. So I had a great conversation this morning with a fellow practitioner, and I felt inspired to hop on to this video and record what I'm about to share when it comes to the topic of the ego. Now, interestingly, this is the third time that I've had to try and record this video. So it feels like my ego is trying to derail what I'm about to share with you. So I am determined, even more so, to persevere. Because quite frankly, the ego is a pain in the backside. But the truth is, we all have an ego. Every single one of us on this planet has an ego. So what is the ego? Well, the ego is the little mind. The ego is the persona of who we think we are, not our true nature. The ego is that image of ourselves that plays small, that's full of insecurity and fear and doubt and lack of self-esteem. And that little I, as I try to think of it as, that little I, it's got nothing to do with the truth of who we really are, which is these incredible, magnificent beings. These beings that are capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit for. Beings that can create our heart's desires because we are creators. We are creators. We were born to create. In fact, we can't not create. But the question when the ego's around is, what is it that we're actually creating? Are we creating what it is that we really want to experience in our life? Or are we creating that which we don't want to happen? And are we creating what we don't want to happen, what we don't want to experience, because we're listening to the ego? Now, the ego can only ever operate from a place of lack, from a place of insecurity, from a place of fear, from a place of separation. Now, you could say, on the one hand, that it's helpful to have that sense, and I do use the word sense, that sense of separation. So if you and I are walking down the street, we can clock each other in the street, we can say hello, we can high five, we can even hug each other, but we know that you're there and I'm here. So we have that sense of separation. But that sense of separation creates conflict because that sense of being separate from one another is what creates that lack of connection. It creates that sense of isolation. It creates that sense of not fitting in, not belonging, not feeling connected to other people, but also not feeling connected to ourselves, not feeling connected to our true nature. And trust me when I say, when you are connected to the truth of who you really are, you absolutely know it. There is no doubt whatsoever because it feels incredible. Absolutely incredible. There are times that I have experienced that feeling of connection, that feeling of who I really am. And I've just had tears of joy and happiness just running down my face. It's a feeling that leaves you in no doubt of your true nature. Unlike the ego, which is full of fear. And its job is, apart from creating that sense of separation, its job is to try and keep you safe, or what it thinks is safe. So that egoic mind, that small mind, is only ever able to operate from the past. So the ego doesn't know anything about the future. It doesn't know anything about expansion. It doesn't know anything about love. It's only ever in the place of fear. And so when we try to step out of our comfort zone, and I'm sure that you've probably experienced this, when you've tried to step out of your comfort zone, it feels uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable because you're out of your comfort zone. And I've had so many clients over the years that say, oh, I know, but it's that fear of the unknown. Well, that fear of the unknown is coming from your ego because it doesn't know anything about the future. So when I have clients that are wanting to perhaps start their new business, or they want to go in a different career direction, or they want to climb the career ladder, for example, and they're scared because they're in that unknown territory. And if they're in that unknown territory, I'm like, great, because this is where we can create something that you've never experienced before. And as I said, we can't not create because we are creative beings. So creating from the place of the unknown is a wonderful place to be, because why would we want to create the same old stuff time and time again? So whether we're creating what it is that we really want, or whether we're creating that which we don't want to experience, depends on how much power you are giving the ego. Those thoughts which are created from that level of fear, so those anxious thoughts, those worrying thoughts, those fearful thoughts, those thoughts that are self-doubt and criticism, those thoughts which are shameful thoughts, guilty thoughts, you name it, any kind of thought that is not aligned to the truth of who you really are coming from that egoic mind, that persona, that small mind, that little mind. But if we are giving those thoughts time, if we're giving those thoughts attention, if we are believing those thoughts, if we keep placing our focus of attention on those thoughts, then we're giving power to those thoughts. And the more that you think those thoughts, the more that you're going to create thought patterns in the brain, the more that those thoughts are going to seem real, the more that you're going to listen to those thoughts, you're going to take them seriously, and you're going to create conditioned, habitual thought cycles. And it might not seem like you're thinking different thoughts, but trust me, 70% of our thinking is habitual. It's repetitive, and it's not very helpful. And yet people, they spend so much time in their thinking. And you've probably heard people say, I need to go away and I need to think about that. And I'm like, no, that's actually the last thing that we want to do. We want to get clarity when we need a clear mind. And a clear mind is not one which is full of thinking. But we believe that if we're thinking about something, then we're actively working on it. We believe that if we're thinking about something, we're doing something. We're problem solving in some kind of way. But actually, all that thinking does is it takes us further and further down rabbit holes of thought into the warren, and then we're stuck. We can't get out. We're just going round and round and round in our heads. And where we get stuck in our heads, we can't see the wood for the trees because we've just got so many thoughts going on. And the more that you are in your head, the more that you've got that thinking going on, the more that that's going to create feelings in your body. And so if we think about the way that the ego is also working, is that when we're thinking fearful thoughts and we experience fear, then we think that something significant is happening. We think, oh, I need to take, attention to this. I need to listen to this. It's a little bit like, if you ever had a creative idea, And it could be a creative idea to start a business or create some sort of, side hustle, or even start a podcast. It doesn't matter, write a book, whatever. But you had the idea, and at the time, the idea was exciting. In that moment, that idea felt certain. It felt, oh, this is what I need to do. This is my path. But then maybe a couple of hours later, or certainly by the next day, there's a shadow of doubt on that idea, isn't there? Or maybe there's a huge storm in the form of doubt on that idea that puts a dampener on that idea, and then the idea gets shelved. Yeah, it's quite frustrating, isn't it? We have all these great ideas, but we don't take action on them because we're too busy listening to the ego. That absolute image that is us. It is absolutely us. It's not something that's separate to us. It is us, but it's a small version of us. And we're paying it far too much attention. We're giving so much power to it. And, people give the ego a bad rap. And maybe after listening to what I'm saying, you're giving it a bad rap too. But the ego can only do what it can do because it comes from that place of fear and separation. It doesn't know anything else. It doesn't know about the future. It doesn't know about the truth of who you are. It doesn't know about love. So it is always going to do what it can to derail you. Always. It's always looking to put the brakes on. And it's pretty sneaky. It's highly manipulative. So it will create, in that perceptual reality that we all live in, it will create drama. It will create chaos. It will make us doubt ourselves. It will make us believe what we think is happening, so that we don't take action, so that we don't grow. And yet, paradoxically, the ego is also never happy. It's never satisfied. So it's a little bit like a petulant child. You can give it goodies. You can give it a bigger paycheck. You can give it the house, the car, the woman of your dreams, the man of your dreams. You can give it anything that it desires. But after the honeymoon period's worn off, you're back to feeling discontented. You're back to feeling antsy. You're back to sort of questioning, why am I here? What's my purpose? That sense of lack of fulfillment, because you're back in that place of separation. And yet the ego also doesn't want you to evolve. It wants to keep you stuck. So, you're in this sort of inner conflict all the time, in that it's always going to push and it's going to want more of you, but it's not going to support you on that journey. So it's not what you would call your best friend. It's certainly not what you would want to call your best friend. But something that I have learned to do over the years is not view it as my enemy as such, because it is me. But when I recognize that my ego is trying to pull the strings, when it's trying to take over and derail me, it's sending the ego love. It's sending love to the ego. It's sending reassurance to the ego. It's that, okay, I know I can see what you're trying to do. I can absolutely see what you're trying to do, but it's okay. And seeing what it's trying to do, where it's trying to derail me, where it's trying to put the handbrake on, requires a level of self-awareness. And self-awareness is absolutely crucial to be able to take back control, to be able to empower yourself, to grow, to manifest what it is in you that you want to experience, to create the life that you want. And self-awareness for me personally comes in the form of journaling. I have got more journals than Bridget Jones's diary. But journaling for me is so, so powerful because it allows me to identify where it is that I'm in my mind, what's going on in my mind, where my ego's potentially trying to derail me. It just creates far, far more consciousness. And I remember about 4 years ago, I was in Bali and I stayed at a wonderful place called the Hotel Commune. And every single morning, without fail, I would get up and I would journal. And the staff who got to know me really well, they were like, "Are you a writer?" I'm like, "Well, there is a version of me that is a writer when I eventually publish my book. But no, I was like, I'm just journaling. I just like to write." And something which I find incredibly powerful, which kind of for me takes journaling to the next level, is every single 6 months, I will go back through my journals and I'll identify what are my key lessons that I've learned. You know, where have I grown? Where have I expanded? I'll also just actually enjoy reading about the magical, beautiful things that I've manifested, experiences that I've had. But when it comes to taking back my control from the ego, what it allows me to do is it allows me to see, where do I keep repeating certain stories? Where do I keep repeating thoughts that aren't serving me? Where am I creating those conditioned, or just, they're like a broken record in that they are just repetitive, conditioned, habitual thinking. It's much easier to be able to sometimes spot those things from a reflective practice. So every 6 months, I just find that so valuable, because we can't always see something when we're in it. And yes, journaling is incredibly powerful at being able to gain insights, to raise that level of consciousness, that level of self-awareness. But that reflective practice for me, it just takes things to the next level. So if it's not something that you do, then it's something I absolutely encourage you to start to do. So I trust that this has given you some insight into the ego and given you some insights into the ways that you can identify if that ego is trying to rule the roost and how to take back your power. But I would love to know how this lands for you. So please pop your comments in the comments box. And if you haven't already, then I would invite you to subscribe now so that you can continue to receive these insightful videos. But for now, have a wonderful day.